All right, we're live. Hi, Neil. Welcome back to the show, mate. We did an absolutely fabulous show before. Everyone was loving it. Ruffled feathers, but loads of people loved it as well. So, yeah, what do you think of that?
Glad to hear that. So all I've been doing, all I want to do is ruffle feathers.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's good to make people question their realities a little bit. And today is going to be about, well, more of the same. We're going to talk about the circus that we're in, the pantomime that we're in, and why people are still asleep. Even the researchers, content producers, you believe that everyone's still, to a certain extent, still asleep
Yep.
to a lot of this stuff. Why we're on a distorted timeline. Why we're kind of indoctrinated from secondary school to maintain that lie, that deception, right? And then we're going to get into how to get into the real knowledge, and then actually who created this circus in the first place, who created this pantomime, and why is it that we're stuck in that way of thinking. So all right, welcome back. There's so
Cheers,
much. I know you're a fountain of knowledge, but yeah, like how did you feel from the last one we did?
I went back to look at it to see. I only come at this from the perspective of being a tradesman. I mean, Carly dragged me kicking and screaming out of my little corner of the field 6 months ago. I've never even talked to anyone on a video before 6 months ago when Carly had first asked me to start talking about this research. So from a personal perspective, I'm just making it up as I go along. This whole content making video, this is your bag. You've been doing this for years and you're experienced in this and you know exactly how you're doing. So the last talk I did with you, and all the talks I've done so far, I've been perfectly happy with. I've had absolutely no kickback. I've had hundreds of wild claims, and no one's thrown anything back in my face about any of those. But then it struck me when I was talking to you last week, and then went back over other researchers' work and comments that have been left, that no one's ever actually explained what the pantomime is, who gave them the pantomime, who created this storyline, why when people see things they have automatic triggered responses, and what they are being held at a certain level. And then I've also had people sort of like saying, how do you get into it? Because I describe it as a 50,000 piece jigsaw. Do you know Joe Phipps from Library of the Untold?
No, but Carly's mentioned him to me, I think.
Yeah, brilliant channel. He asked me to do an explanation of it. And I said, can you do it in 5,000 words? Well, the entire theory covers 24,000 years. It covers the entire planet. You're talking about genetics, law, scripture, all sorts of things. And then you want to reduce that to 5,000 words to keep someone interested. So when I then went back to look at other people's conclusions and other people's works, no one has ever actually explained this pantomime and why it came about and what the knowledge is that is being suppressed. So when I looked back at the one that I did with you, all I've been doing so far is basically trying to machine gun cherries, if you will. It's easy for me to say Edinburgh is Jerusalem, York was Babylon, Cambridge was Troy, Ireland was Atlantis. But these are so far out of the realms of normal people's understanding, unless something actually sticks and then they take it further themselves. But then they'll automatically run into a brick wall of how do I understand that? How do I get to understand that? What are the what channels should I be looking at? Which videos should I be watching? So at the end of the talk, I've made a list of either videos I would suggest to watch as an introduction to all this, or content producers that's all they do is this. So when we get at the start, I'm going to explain who, what, how, why, where, when the pantomime was created. Then I'm going to go into some of the quandaries of history that we see and don't understand. Then I'm going to go into some of the pre-programmed items that trigger an automatic response, like the video I did last week on Satan. When someone says 666, everyone's just going the number of the beast, that the all-seeing eye, etc., without having any understanding of what all these terms mean, where they came from, because the level of their triggered response is all they know. So once we've gone through there, then we're going to go and have a look at some of the gatekeepers that are holding you there, whether that's deliberate or accidental. Then we're going to have a quick look at some of the historical researchers, and then we'll finish on channels and videos that I would recommend if you're interested in any of this stuff, of going and looking at, and then hopefully that taking you further down that road. I mean, I got into all this just simply by watching one video, and about three facts came in all at once. And then from 20 years of researching and asking these questions and seeing stupid anomalies, all of a sudden I keep calling it the Irish Cipher. That everywhere you put this cipher to, it's Irish, it's the Irish and Sirius cipher now, but everywhere you put this cipher to, it always works. So I've been sticking with it for about the last 5 years, and then once I stumbled into it and then started finding other researchers that had also been doing it for years, you kind of know that you're onto something there. So that's basically the idea of this talk, rather than me peppering you with hundreds and hundreds of little facts that you'd never heard before, actually trying to put it into words of what it all is and why you don't get to see the next level, if you will.
Okay, brilliant. Where should we start with that then? Which part of the pantomime should we start with? The how, the why, the...
Well, top of my list, I've actually got flamenco. Have you heard of flamenco's work?
No.
I think he was a Russian researcher. He spent 20 years of his life working on an historical problem, because what he discovered was duplications. See, this is one method of how they did it, is they duplicated tribes, cities, towns, moved them around the world to other places to make you, so for example, they moved Jerusalem from Edinburgh out to the Middle East to keep you focused out on the Middle East. So basically, at one point, you must have had 2 Jerusalems. So this is what flamenco suddenly found out. It was like there's 2 or 3 places all called the same in different places. How many examples are there of the deity Jesus? Born a virgin birth, died, dead 3 days, re-rose. What is that? We could come up with half a dozen deities that all did that. So this is what flamenco stumbled into. And he spent 20 years of his life studying these duplications. But he came to the conclusion that 1,000 years had been added to the timeline, because he couldn't just explain it. But my conclusion is he didn't know anything about this Irish cipher or why that was brought about. So all he basically discovered was all these duplications. But if you go onto the internet, there's now a whole stream of videos that have been made trying to look at this 1,000 years of added timeline, where I'm saying actually it's not right, because it's probably closer to about 1,500 years of timeline. And what this timeline goes from about 1,000 BC to about 500 AD, 1,000 AD, 1,500, 2,000 year timeline. And this was what I'd call Britain's second golden age. This was after the tribes of Israel had left Egypt, come back to Britain, the Holy Land. This was when Edinburgh was Jerusalem, Cambridge was Troy. This is when they talk about the Dark Era of Britain, the Dark Age from 0 to 1,000 AD. Well, this is actually Britain's second golden age that got completely written out of history. So I'm going to start with who. Basically, it'll just be who, what, how, why, where, when. So we'll start with who. The Tuatha De Danann, the Tribe of Dan. They landed back from Egypt around 1,500 BC. They defeated the Firbolg in the First Battle of Moytura, and then they took control of Ireland. Now, apparently, they were only actually in control of Ireland for about 300 years before the Milesians got back with Queen Scotia. I think that was the 7th invasion of Ireland. they defeated the Tuatha De Danann and basically kicked them out of Ireland. So what the tribe of Dan Tuathas did, they knew all about British Christianity, the British Bible, etc. So when they left Ireland, because they had initially come from the Mediterranean, Egypt, they went back to the Mediterranean and they went back to Rome. Now, Rome is a compound of two Irish words, ro and om, meaning heaven and earth. So there's a lot of ties with Rome and Ireland to start off with. I mean, the River Tiber, which runs straight through Rome, is actually an Irish word meaning spring or stream. And then we can look at, you can look at most of Rome and find connections back to Ireland. I mean, you've got Seven Sisters Hills, you've got them back in Ireland. So the Tuatha De Danann basically stole British Christianity and the British Bible. They went back to Rome, and then over the next few hundred years, plagiarized British Christianity into Roman Christianity. They used Irish deities and British place names. They created this religion, set it all out in the Middle East, and then gave it back to the world as Roman Christianity. Then after that, they then went around the world and have spent the last 2,000 years basically destroying any shred of history of this stolen Christianity from Britain. So the first thing they did was went and burnt down the Library of Alexandria, because that had all the that had all the basic knowledge that had come from Ireland to start off with. So they torched the Library of Alexandria. They then spent, the Spanish Inquisition, you know that one. That killed 100 million people, and basically it was the Vatican's convert or die policy. If you don't now convert into our new Roman Christianity, then you're going to die. So what they did is basically try and kill off anybody that was still practicing the old religion. This is why they wiped out the Templars. This is why they wiped out the Cathars. This is why they killed 100 million people in South America. They spent the last 2,000 years at war with British Christianity to help wipe it out. It's been helped a big way by the British government, because you heard of William of Orange?
Don't think so. No.
Well, he was one of our kings, and basically he defeated, I think it was James the First. James the First. But William of Orange was sponsored by the Vatican, and he took over the royal crown, the royal bloodline of Britain. So since that point, basically the royal family and the British government have been hand in hand with the Vatican, trying to destroy everything about Ireland and this ancient British Christianity, to destroy what our knowledge was, and more specifically what we gave back, what Ireland and Britain gave back to the world after that 6000 BC, when the Storegga slides smashed Ireland and everyone then left Ireland and went back around the world. These are these blue-eyed builder codes, the Shemshur, the Phoenicians, whatever. They re-educated the planet to the knowledge that they'd lost before the Great Flood. So that is the part of history that they wanted to wipe out. They've spent the last 2,000 years rewriting history and destroying anything that might encourage people to look back at Ireland and Britain. I think Michael Tsarian's got a brilliant way of explaining that. He said that the knowledge is that pure, the initial knowledge coming out of Britain is that pure, and it's that good that when the Vatican went around the world to try and stamp out all this knowledge that had already been given to them, basically what they did is stick their hand in a jar of glitter, went around the world trying to stamp out all this knowledge, but left this glitter absolutely everywhere, because they just simply can't stamp it out. The Irish language, do you know much about languages? The older a language is, the more complicated a language gets, because languages are fluid. So more and more slang words come in year on year. So the biggest and most complicated language there is ancient Irish or ancient Hebrew. They're the same language. It doesn't matter which people you go to anywhere on the planet, you will find a hint of ancient Irish language within their common knowledge. They'll always be talking about blonde-haired, blue-haired master race who brought them advanced knowledge. So all this Irish knowledge and what Britain and Ireland gave back to the world is buried deep within every culture across the planet, which is why Rome have spent such a long time, and they've still not managed to stamp it all out yet. The education system in this country, 1905, the Balfour Education Act. Now, before 1905, every single school could have taught anything that they wanted, literally taught anything that they wanted. But it was only in 1905, when they brought in this Balfour Education Act, that they could mainstream what everybody learnt. So this is when the national syllabus came about, which is only 120 years ago. So for the last 120 years, they found it pretty easy to brainwash, to manipulate everybody. 2 and 2 is 4. The Egyptians were there, the Phoenicians were there, and then everyone then spends the rest of their lives just simply regurgitating what it is that they were taught by the state education system. But no one ever then questions the state education system. So this is who brought in the fake timeline, why they brought in the fake timeline, what they were trying to cover up, and what they're doing, even right through to today, when people talk about the trilateral states, where you're talking about the Vatican, London, and Washington.
Yeah.
They're all the same. They are all the Tribe of Dan. They are all the Tuatha De Danann. Even right through to...
You mean Washington, D.C., though, right? Not Washington.
Yeah, well, sorry, Washington, D.C.
Yeah, yeah. Can I just, before you go on, can I just ask, because you said Hebrew is the same as Irish.
Yep.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
But can you explain that a bit more? Because aren't they completely different languages? And I, from my research, Hebrew actually comes from sound vibrations and cymatics.
Well, again, you're going back to the initial creation of language. Is it? Sorry, I've got Asperger's, so I get confused with words and reading stuff. Consonants and vowels. Consonant vowels. A, E, I, O, U. Are they the vowels?
Yeah, they're the vowels. Yeah.
Ancient Irish, ancient Hebrew, 16 letters, no vowels. Both are exactly the same. The Hebrews come from Hibernia under King Heber. The Jews, the Jews, Judaism, that all comes from Britain. That all originates from Ireland. So when the Hebrews, the Israelites, the tribe of Israel, all come from Britain. So initially, the language comes from Britain. So this is why ancient Irish and ancient Hebrew are exactly the same language. They're pretty much made up the same way. And then when you start looking at the two languages, how they're written, they're almost identical. But obviously there has to be a certain change, otherwise everybody would automatically know that ancient Irish is ancient Hebrew. It is quite, I've heard it many, many times before I ever stumbled onto this theory of knowing why. But that's basically the Hebrews come from Ireland because of Hibernia and Heber, which is where those words actually come from. So that is basically the fundamentals of your education system. And it's gone on from there, and you are held at that point. Now, I'll come back to context users anyway. So I've got half a dozen things now. We look back at history. We see things that just simply don't fit. Now, up to a few years ago, I was exactly the same. You'd see these things that don't fit. You couldn't come up with an explanation of what they are. So basically, they just get brushed under the carpet, oh, that's weird. I'll look at that some other time when I've got more knowledge. So have you heard of the Disc of Cebu?
No.
You'll find it in Egypt. It's like a disc, but on three of the sides, it's curled up and in, and it's made of solid granite. It's possibly at least 15,000 years old. The boxes at the Serapeum.
Sorry?
The boxes at the Serapeum.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think it's best just to not ask me if I know any of this stuff, because I don't know any. Just assume I don't know any of it.
I'll just list them out. The boxes.
Otherwise, you'll keep saying, "What's this? What's it?" And I have no idea. I look like an idiot throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, no problem.
Just assume I know none of these terms or historical relics or anything like that.
All right, I'll just read them out. The boxes with the Serapeum, there's, I think it's 20 or 24 solid granite boxes that started off weighing something like 100 tons that have all been carved out absolutely perfectly, 90 degrees, polished granite, etc., etc. We couldn't make it today. We haven't got a clue how they ended up there. We see the fall of man, the fall of man's intelligence. The further back we look in history, the more intelligent we seem to have been, the more skillful that we were. We can see things now. The unfinished obelisk, 1,000-ton obelisk. We don't know how they cut it out or how they were going to stand it up.
Yeah.
We see carvings now and cave paintings of man interacting with dinosaurs. Dinosaurs.
Really?
Dinosaurs lived 100 million years ago, and yet we've got paintings, pottery, carvings of man interacting with dinosaurs.
Are you sure they're dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Because I did a whole show about how that's actually a deception and they didn't exist. But don't know what you think of that. That's just also part of
the word dinosaur only came about in 1841 with Richard Owen. Sir Richard Owen, if I remember right. That word only actually came into existence in the 1840s. And there's actually a bit of mistranslation because, again, going back to the talk that I did last week, you have the word tan. Tan is jackal. Tanim is plural of jackals, but tanin is serpents and dragons.
Yeah, someone's just put dragons here. Someone's put dragons.
So this is, if you look, it's tanim and tannin. It's a mistranslation, and this is how the word Satan often gets connected to the word serpent. But again, it's only a 2-minute research on Google, and you'll find hundreds and hundreds of carvings, paintings, and these are and can only be dinosaurs. In fact, did you see there was, again, I talked about this last week, the archaeologist that got a dinosaur bone, and she was going to do a study on it, and this bone was supposed to be something like 100 million years old, and she got this small bone and it was covered in dirt. So she got some weak acid, put this bone into some weak acid to get the dirt off the bone. She forgot all about it, went home for the weekend. When she came back in on Monday morning, the acid had dissolved the entire bone. There was nothing left in the bottom of this petri dish. But what she did notice, she saw some blood vessels and some capillaries with blood cells in the capillaries. Well, hold on a minute. This is supposed to be 100 million years old. There shouldn't be any organic matter within the bone. So she had these blood vessels carbon dated, and it came back to 30 to 40,000 years old.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Now, that work instantly got buried. I'm not totally sure whether or not she got sacked for it. I know all the researchers have also repeated the same experiments and come back with the same conclusions, that they're finding blood vessels within the bones, carbon dating these blood vessels, and it's coming back at 30, 40,000 years old, which is also why you can then understand why we're seeing cave paintings of man interacting with dinosaurs.
But you're sure they're dinosaurs, though? They're not dragons? Or
Well, I keep saying dinosaurs as an easy way for people to understand. If in my mind, I'm just seeing the word dragons and serpents.
Yeah, okay, right. Because I've just done a whole show about like how dinosaurs were like made up, and all the fossils you see are just replicas, and so it's
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They just find one tiny little bone and then just suddenly say, oh, that's a 50-foot dinosaur that lived 200 million years old just from, and it turns out that it was a little finger from an ape.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's just
Oh, absolutely.
It's all coming out. It's all like all that deception is starting to sort of unravel now, and we're starting to see it, like the whole, like more and more every month, every year. Like there's more and more things that you go, bloody hell, that's changed my reality a little bit, my childhood.
Yeah, so, I mean, all of us as kids all see Brontosaurus, this 20-ton bloody great big dinosaur, and then it's only later you just go, how did they have sex? How did they reproduce? It's absolutely impossible. So the huge, like I said, your huge Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Brontosaurus, I don't believe they existed, but smaller dinosaurs, which are a little bit bigger than us, these carvings, there's plenty of pictures of carvings, stone carvings, cave paintings, to say there were some animals around 30 to 40,000 years ago that were much bigger than they are today, probably based around reptiles. I would go that far. Your whole 200 million year old dinosaur story, I don't believe in that, because in this theory, I keep saying it's a 24,000 year cycle, so it repeats every 24,000 years. So you can go back 100,000 years, but all that is 4 cycles. So I believe that 24,000 years ago, we were almost identically in the same place as we are today, and we repeat that every 24,000 years. I mean, how we got there will probably be different than how we got here. So there would be major changes, but man, where he is in his evolution, repeats to the same point every 24,000 years. So whereas if, again, we're talking about the timeline, they want you to imagine a linear timeline. What's happened 50,000 years, what happened 100,000 years ago, what happened a million years ago, and it's all just one linear timeline.
Yeah, no.
This is a cyclical timeline of this 24,000 years that keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. And every time Sirius comes back, it sterilizes everything off the planet anyway. Yeah,
we're not saying that me and you pop back up again exactly the same lifetimes, though, are we? We're just saying that there's a reset.
No, it's cyclical. There's a lot of evidence, especially like I'm going to go into later with some of the researchers who really look back at as far back as they can possibly go, and some of the things they're digging up are literally impossible. So I've explained some of the anomalies that we see that we just simply brush under the table.
By the way, there's just a question's just come in here. It says that's why we are finding phones buried. We had this conversation already many times.
Yeah, possibly we will find. I've always found it fascinating that we haven't found any machinery or any plant, especially out in Egypt.
Yeah.
We've got all these things that are unexplainable, but we've never even found so much as a chisel.
Yeah, so why is that though? Why don't we unearth and irrigate, advanced technology then? If it's cyclical, surely that stuff would go into the ground, wouldn't it? And then we'd be able to irrigate it.
I would say it's still in the ground. I would say it's buried.
That's what I mean. But
I would also claim that when I said going back 15,000 years, when they knew that Sirius was coming back and everyone went to live underground, a lot of the stuff they would have taken with them then anyway. So most of the stuff would have gone with them. Any bits that were laid around on the top would have been buried. I mean, have you looked at Google Earth at North Africa, where there's just a complete swathe of sand just goes straight across the top of North Africa? Now, if you look back at old maps and old stories, apparently the entire North Africa used to be green.
Yeah.
That was what got wiped away during the Great Flood, and that's where the Eye of the Sahara is, which was the city of Atlantis. All that just got washed away with that sand. I guarantee if you dig under that sand, if you could take all that sand away from the Sahara, you'd be gobsmacked with what you found buried under there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there must. Why has there not been anything excavated? Like, not one little relic, which is just advanced technology.
We've got little bits, like I said just before, about the Disc of Cebu.
Right.
Again, I'm going to go back in at the end. There's a couple of channels that do go back and look at this really old stuff, this pre-dynastic stuff, and basically just show how, even if you looked at one of these things, you might as well just throw every history book on the planet, just throw them in the bin because they're useless.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. You only need to see one thing, but again, that's something I want to get into more towards the end of individual researchers. These are doing this subject, these are doing this subject, these are doing this subject, because like I say, it's a 50,000 piece jigsaw. So you could have 100 researchers all doing different little areas, all of their own, and none of them are crossover. But then to explain all this in a 3-hour talk, 30-hour talk, you could just about do it justice in about 30 hours, I think. So this is why this one, I just want to do an outline of the entire thing, why the timeline has been distorted, why people have been held at a certain point, and which videos and researchers to go and look at if you're interested in expanding your knowledge. If you're interested in coming out of the circus, you've had enough of the pantomime, you want to take your understanding to the next level, and you're prepared to say that 90% of what I know at the moment has all been part of the pantomime.
Yeah.
Only because some people are the deliberate gatekeepers, some aren't, some are accidental gatekeepers, but because they don't know any different and they just like where they are, they just stay where they are. So they're just basically treading water. So this little bit, I'm going to list off the pantomime, various subjects within the pantomime, what the pantomime is, and what the reality is. Now, we're not going to go into it too deep because this section, I could end up talking for days just on this section of what the reality of the pantomime is. So I'm going to start with everyone's favourite, the Anunnaki. The pantomime version is the Anunnaki landed in Sumeria in a cloud one night. They brought this advanced knowledge. They came from Nibiru and wanted to mine gold, basically. That's the fundamentals of the story. Now, you can study that part of the story all day long. You can go and make as many videos of it as you want. But as long as you stay within the parameters of that particular story of the Anunnaki landing in Sumeria, they came here for the gold. As long as you stay within that, you'll be fine. No problem. I would say if you took Graham Hancock, you took all Graham Hancock's work on the Anunnaki, I can almost guarantee you that he will have never once mentioned that another name for the Anunnaki is the Sons of Anu. The Sons of Anu are the Irish Tuatha De Danann, because Anu is their mother goddess figure, and the word Naki is the Irish word for serpent. So the pantomime version is the Anunnaki landed in the Middle East, in Mesopotamia. They brought this advanced knowledge. 75% of that Anunnaki story is actually correct. So what they did was take the story, move it out to the Middle East. You have the Sumerian kings list. Now, again, that's quite a big part, because apparently the Sumerian kings list goes back over 400,000 years. But what they actually did was convert days to years. So if you put the Sumerian kings list, the Anunnaki kings list, against the Irish kings list, and then converted the days to years, they marry up perfectly. So, for example, on the Anunnaki kings list, the Sumerian kings list, it'll say such and such a body, he reigned for 3,650 years. So everyone then starts talking, oh, they can live for over 3,000 years and etc., etc. But if you convert 3,650 years to days and then back to years again, that's 10 years. So he reigned for 10 years. So that's how, again, they've played with the facts. But all you've simply got to do is go and have a look at the King's List, convert it to days, and then go and compare it to the Irish King's List, and they'll just marry like for like. So that's how they put the little twist on that. So if you're still seeing the Anunnaki landing in a cloud one night on top of a mountain in Sumeria with Enki, Enlil, Marduk, and they came here to mine the gold, you're still asleep. You're still within the pantomime. And if you're making videos about the Anunnaki, whatever, if you're staying within the parameters of the pantomime, you're still in the pantomime. The reality is the Anunnaki landed in Ireland. They're called the Sons of Anu. They landed in a cloud on the top of a mountain one night. The Anunnaki are the Tuatha De Danann landing in Ireland.
The two, can you say it again? The Tuatha what? What's that?
Tuatha, Tuath.
Tuath. Tuath. Yeah.
Th.
Yeah.
A. Tuatha.
Yeah.
Tuatha.
Yeah.
De. De.
Yeah.
Danann. Dannan.
Okay, so explain again. So what's that mean? It's just another name for the tribe of Dan.
The tribe of Dan.
Okay, so this is just another way.
The tribe of Dan and the Tuatha De Danann are the same people.
Gotcha,
But
yeah.
in Ireland, they're known as the Tuatha De Danann. These
that's the Irish. It's the Irish name for it. Okay.
The Irish name is the Tuatha De Danann.
Right.
But
okay.
the Tuatha De Danann and the tribe of Dan are the same people, the same thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, right. I just didn't know what you meant by that, so cleared that one up. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's probably easy for me just to keep saying the tribe of Dan, but like I say,
I think so,
I've got rid of this programming.
Yeah, I know, and you're trying to go back in, and it's hard to
go back into it to keep it easy for everybody else.
Yeah.
Everyone that's awake all knows about the numbers 32 and 33. It's all to do with the Freemasons and CC, and everyone knows about 33, and it's all Masonic, and they're awake if they see the number 33 and etc. That's the pantomime. Basically, Freemasonry came from Ireland. There are 32 counties in Ireland. Every county were allowed to have their own king. Every person within the county could rise up to be the king of their county, to give 32 kings in Ireland. But in Ireland, there's 33 kings because they have one king of Ireland, but he had to be chosen to be the king. Not anybody could be the king, which is exactly the same as the Freemasons. Anyone can come up to level 32, but you have to be invited to go into level 33 to be the 33rd top, all the rest of it. So that's where your numbers 32 and 33 come from. It's to do with ancient Ireland and how many kings it had. That's it.
Yeah, but you mentioned the Freemason. You mentioned Freemasonry emerged from that, though, right?
Freemasonry. I use the term Freemasonry, whether it was that term when it was back then, but the mystery schools, including Freemasonry, all that was initially created in Ireland at the same time as organised religion, basically to protect all the knowledge.
Yeah,
that's what it was created for, to protect the knowledge. But again, when it was basically infiltrated and destroyed and then recreated in 1717 in a pub in London, which is the common story, that's the pantomime version. The real version, if you want to look at what the original Freemasons were all about, you have to go back to Ireland. And again,
to summarize that, just before you go into the detail of that, just so I'm clear for everyone, the mystery schools were created as in a positive way, a benevolent way, to maintain the ancient knowledge, right?
Yes.
And that was proliferated around the world. Those mystery schools ended up in different countries around the world.
Yes.
And are we saying that some of those mystery schools still exist as a kind of positive school to proliferate that knowledge, or are we saying that they all got wiped, or did they all get wiped out and then they got inverted and hijacked and co-opted, and now it's only proliferating the pantomime version mystery school, mystery schools?
The first option, I would hope so.
Yeah.
I expect the second option.
Yeah.
That they've all been wiped out and they've all been manipulated into promoting the pantomime.
Okay.
Is what I would expect. I would hope that there's still mystery schools out there, but if they made themselves public, they'd be wiped out immediately. The knowledge is there. I mean, I first said to Carly, and I keep saying it, I think they forgot. I think they've been burying the history for that long, is that the vast majority of their history, that they forgot themselves.
Yeah.
So that no one would remember it. And so there's an amazing video called The Last Rite, and he actually explains why and how they destroy their history so no one ever would know who they are. That's a fascinating thing. But I say, they've spent that long trying to hide it and trying to keep it a secret, that the original knowledge they've lost, and I think they forgot. And most of these hand gestures and symbols that you see today, that most people that you'll see on the media, I don't think they have a clue what they're doing. Absolutely not a clue. I mean, again, I'm going to go back into that. In fact, it's all part in here, so I can skip to that. I mean, you see that. If you see that in the media, all of a sudden, let's say you see Lady Gaga going like that.
Yeah.
You're suddenly going, there's Lady Gaga, and she's pulling 666. She's a Satanist. She sold her soul to the devil. She's sacrificing children and drinking blood, whatever the story that you are triggered with with that word. But if you see that and you see 666 and you think that's something to do with Satan, then you're still asleep. You're still within the pantomime.
Really? Is that not their little kind of tipping their hat to their demon or whatever?
Well, if I take that a little bit further, 666 is a mistranslation in the King James Bible. The actual passage says 666 is the number of the beast, man. If you go and read more versions of the Book of Revelations, the number is the number of man. But 666 was a mistranslation, because what they did, if you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls from the Book of Revelations there, what they did, they mistranslated XLC in Hebrew to 666. But the number, what it actually states is XIC, which is 616. Yeah. So the number should be 616, not 666. 666 is a mistranslation.
But why do they all do it then, the celebrities? Because we know that a lot of them are doing these rituals and they're pretty evil, and they're in one big pedo club. Like, why would they be doing that as a little gesture, like a hand gesture?
Because I think they forgot. I think they've been told that, because they're not interested. It's like if someone comes to me and says, all right, if you sign this piece of paper, you're signing a contract, you're signing your soul to the devil. Yeah. If you go around and you pull plenty of that sort of stuff and head in your hand and the Eye of Horus, all the rest of it, you keep pulling all that stuff and you'll be rich and famous. And they don't even understand what it is they're talking about. Because the number of times I've seen them trying to explain what the Kabbalah is, or what 666 is, or I've sold my soul to Satan. There is no Satan. There's no Satan, no Lucifer, no Baphomet, no Baal. Again,
I'm not sure about that. I think there is some kind of trans-dimensional aspect, because that's why they do the rituals.
Absolutely, there is.
They definitely invoke something when they do the rituals.
Yes, absolutely, there is.
And that they could be referring to that as Satan or Lucifer or whatever it is, but there is some kind of demonic entity, because you read about that in the story of Faustus.
Yeah, I'm not saying there is no evil entities. Right. I'm saying absolutely there is. They know that there is. But like I said to Carla last week, if you want to go and study evil entities, the best place for that would be Gnosticism.
Yeah.
Go and study the archons archons in Gnosticism. You'll have much of a.
You said it didn't exist, though. You said Satan doesn't exist, but
Satan doesn't exist. But Satan is an archon.
Okay,
it's just a word.
It's just, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, you're just meaning that particular word doesn't exist, but what it's kind of referring to does exist. What people loosely refer to Satan as
Yes, the evil entity that lives on the
Yes.
other side
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
veil that can be manipulated and selling your soul to, etc. There
Got
are
you.
those kind of evil deities. But if you want to know the names of those evil deities and what they are, then
Yeah.
you need to go study Gnosticism and the Archons,
Yes.
or even the Jinn.
Yeah. I'm with you now. You're just talking about the word itself.
I'm just talking about the
Yeah.
word.
Got you.
So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
like I say, there is no Satan, there is no Lucifer, there is no Baphomet, there is no Baal. These are all videos that I'm then going to go into explaining where the word came from, how it got into the Bible. And like I say, I did one on Satan, breaking down Satan and 666 last week. So if you want to know where the clowns come from, I've done 2 breakdowns. I've done Satan and 666, and I've done
Oh,
one
go
on the
on.
clowns and the
Oh, God,
Nephilim.
I need to ask you about the clowns thing. What do you mean by that? Okay, so
Again, the clowns and the Nephilim, for the last 20 years, I've seen 50 videos all explaining what clowns are. And every single video will say the clowns are disembodied souls of the Nephilim.
what do you mean clown? Hang on, what do you mean by clowns? Are you referring to just the people that dress up, or what? Like?
Well, clowns throughout history. I mean, if you go and look at, say, the Dogons dress like clowns. They've always said that their gods look like clowns.
The Dogons? Who?
The Dogons from Africa.
Dogons.
Or the Syria people.
Okay.
When they have always represented their gods as being clown-like, as looking like clowns. So then if you just simply typed in Nephilim clowns into YouTube, you pull 50 videos up that are all talking. I can come back to that as well. Newgrange is the Ark. So every video will talk about disembodied spirits of the Nephilim being these clowns. Every video will tell you that. But if you then put these clowns through the Irish Cipher, we know that the Irish went out and re-educated the planet. We know they had red hair. We know they had white skin. We knew they wore red ochre on the faces to protect themselves from sun. We know that they wore bright clothes. So all the facets of what a clown is found in the Aryans coming out of Ireland.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, right.
And
Okay.
because all these tribes have described these people who brought them their knowledge as being gods every single time, as being these red-haired, white-skinned, tall Europeans with advanced knowledge. They were our gods. This is who we remember. This is who we invoke, because when their gods went away, they said they'd come back. So it's their attempt to bring their gods back and to remember what their gods looked like when they first came to them. So if you imagine, say, in Africa, where they've got black hair, brown eyes, brown skin, and then all of a sudden these tall white people turns up with red hair and white skin and wearing bright coloured clothes, and they bring you all this advanced knowledge, you want to remember who they were, but they look like clowns. So I think that's where the story of these clowns comes from, rather than being from the other side of the veil. Rather than being spirits from the other side of the veil that all these people are trying to re-invoke, they were actually genuine people with red hair and white skin.
Are people saying that, though? Are people saying there's a transdimensional spirit clown, like clown spirit?
Yeah, I think I watched my first one video on that probably over 20 years. You put it into YouTube and you could. There's probably 50 videos saying that the clowns are disembodied Nephilim spirits, but that's the only explanation that you will ever get. So that's why I did the video on the clown, just to say there is another option. And if you put the clowns through the Irish Cipher, it turns out that it could be that the clowns are real people these Aryans that came out of Ireland.
Do you think maybe that's why the image of a clown now is like, stupid, dopey, just can't take it seriously? They've changed the impression of what a clown means. Is that also part of?
Well, they're trying to invert everything. They're trying to make clowns look like they're stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I talked before about the Tuatha De Danann, the king of the Tuatha De Danann is called Lu, and another name for Lu is Lu the trickster god, because he liked playing jokes. So they had a sense of humor.
Mm.
So if all these people have turned up and they've got a sense of humour and they like playing jokes, and their god is called the trickster god, I think that's where the whole picture of what clowns are came from. Personally, triggering the word Phoenician. Again, this is going back to sort of your secondary school base level. You were taught about the Phoenicians, spelled Phoen.
Yeah.
They are these sea people that lived in the Mediterranean, that had advanced knowledge, etc., etc. But there's quite a big mystery behind them. Now, again, 75% of that is true. They were advanced, they were sea people. They did hang out in the Mediterranean. But if you simply change the spelling of the word Phoenician to the word Phoenician, starting with the letter F, F-I-N, because Finn means white in Irish. And if you presumably have heard of the Irish Fenians, like the Pikeys, they love calling themselves the Fenians. They're the Irish, so they're the Finns. So
did it not come from? I thought it came from like phonetics, Phoenicians.
Well, again, you've got the phony Phoenician phonetics.
Yeah.
They like changing the PH to an F and using those two as interchangeable. But all they did was change it to the PH. They took the Irish Phoenicians beginning with an F, put them out into the Mediterranean, changed the spelling to PH, and all of a sudden, your programming is every time you see the word Phoenician spelt with PH, your mind is automatically creating a picture out in the Mediterranean of these advanced people that are living out there. If you see Phoenician spelled F-I-N, automatically you think about Ireland, of the Fenians. This is the twist of why you're being held at a certain point. If you just simply change the way you think to Phoenician from Ireland, then it also then becomes a lot clearer. A brilliant one here. You've seen the film 300?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Trojans and the Egyptians landing. Well, you watch the film 300 and your mind is automatically it's in Greece, where Greece is now. But if you watch the film 300 and then you go and study the first Battle of Moytura in Ireland, what the film 300 is about is when I said the Milesians came back after the Tuatha De Danann took control of Ireland about 1800 BC, 1500 BC when the Milesians came back, that is the basis of the film 300. So if you just go and study the first Battle of Moytura and then go and watch the film 300 again, you know exactly what it's talking about. It's set in Ireland. It's not set in the Middle East. So that, again, this is this holding your attention out in the Mediterranean when it should really be in Ireland. The swastika. I say the word swastika to you, and you automatically think of Hitler and the Aryan race and the blue-eyed master race, etc., etc. That's your triggered response to what the swastika is. The swastika is actually the black sun, because it's in reverse, and the black sun is Sirius. That's all it is. Black sun is Sirius. That's the swastika. And because Sirius is called Silver Star Sirius, every time you see the letters SS, again, you get a lot of that. You'll get a lot of that in Nazism. But every time you see the letters SS, what they're talking about is Silver Star Sirius, which also then translates to the Illuminati's AA, which is Argenteum Mastrium, which is basically Silver Star in Latin. Again, we mentioned Satan, Lucifer, Bel, Baphomet. They're all fictionalized deities. They can all be traced back to Ireland. The Baphomet, for example, was created in 1850 by Elphys Levi, but he plagiarized the Baphomet off Cernunnos, the Irish horned hunter god. So if you could just go and study the Irish horned hunter god Cernunnos, that's where the Baphomet was plagiarized from. Baal comes from Bel comes from Belanus. Belanus is the Irish fire god, which is why they have bonfires on Beltane, the 1st of May. And the 1st of May was the date the Tuatha De Danann landed in Ireland and then burnt their boats, which is also why they had bonfires. So all these, like I say, the deities in the Bible and the deities that they believe in can all be traced back to Ireland, of where the initial conception of them was. So again, if I just simply say to you the Baphomet at your level now, you're thinking of Satanism and this goat thing with 2 horns and goat's legs.
Yeah.
Well, just go and study the Irish hunter god Cernunnos, and you'll know exactly where the Baphomet came from, where Elphys Levi plagiarized it from. If we're talking about Norse mythology, I say Odin. In Norse mythology, you've got a picture of Odin wandering around the battlefield with his 2 crows, picking up the souls of the fallen. Yeah. Well, the story of Odin is actually derived from a deity called the Morrigan in Ireland, a female deity who wandered the battlefield with her 2 crows, picking up the souls of the fallen. Loki, the trickster. We've already mentioned this one 5 minutes ago. The king of the Tuatha De Danann is called the trickster god. So all the characters in Norse mythology, their characteristics can all be traced back to Ireland. You've got Thor and Thor's hammer. That comes from the Dagda. The Dagda had a big smash everything hammer. So they've taken these characteristics of these deities, brought them into Norse mythology, and repeated them. Just simply rinse and repeat, change the
rehashed it. So is that why? Sorry, just go back to Loki. He's the trickster Norse god, isn't he? Are you saying that that's actually referring to like the clown, like the Irish, like brightly coloured one that's sharing the knowledge?
Yeah. But also, you've also got the actual name Loki comes from Norse, and that's Lokabrenna. The name Loki comes from Lokabrenna, which is a Norwegian word meaning Sirius. It's the torch of Loki.
Say that again. So Loki comes from where?
Loki comes from a Norwegian word called Lokabrenna. Now, Lokabrenna means torch of Loki, and the torch of Loki, because Sirius is 27 times hotter than our sun. It's the brightest star in the sky. Another name for Sirius is the torch of Loki, Lokabrenna. So that's where the actual term Loki comes from.
Right.
But the actual characteristics of Loki being a trickster god, those characteristics are plagiarized from Lu, the trickster god. Again, we've got King James Bible that was written in 1611 by a Freemason. A lot of researchers, when they start quoting like 666, they take it straight from the King James Bible. They know it was written by a Freemason. They know it was only written 400 years ago. Why aren't they reading the Book of Revelations from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is 2,000 years old? Surely you're going to get better knowledge from something that's been rewritten by a Freemason rather than rammed down your throat since you were a kid. And one last one, I think we've already covered this. This was this is just basically the creation of the. I like to think of it as a pleasure beach, because if you walk into a pleasure beach, there might be 200 different rides on there. Side shows, rides, all the rest of it. Now, every single ride, every single side show is fantasy. And every single ride and side show is controlled and manipulated in some way. I used to live over at Blackpool. So if you go into Blackpool Pleasure Beach and you go into, let's say, you want to knock a coconut shy, you want to go and knock a coconut on off the shies. But what you don't know is half the coconuts have been glued down. So they have these cheats within the pleasure beaches, but all these different rides are different subjects. 666, Satan, Lucifer, whatever. They're all subjects within the pleasure beach. And it's not until you actually step foot outside the pleasure beach outside the control mechanism, and you can then actually say, oh, well, 666 is actually the number 616 because it's a mistranslation. I don't know if it's a good sign or a bad sign, but then if you then learn that, I can quite happily say 666 is a mistranslation of 616. But then if I then go back into the pleasure beach and I then see the fictional ride 666, I know it's a fictional ride. I know there's nothing about it that is real. The problem from our perspective is that 99.999% of the people are still on the pleasure beach. They still want to believe 666 is the number of the beast, and I'm making videos and content and I'm putting posts up about 666. What you're doing is making posts about a fiction within a fiction. It's not based on any form of reality. It's like me reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and then going making a video about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and seeing 666 or Satan or this character represents this.
But like you said though, that even though it's not from the original meaning, that it is being used as a gesture by these sort of psychopathic.
I mean, we've always known that all these stories contain at least 75% of truth. I mean, 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now, I was nuts deep in the Anunnaki. I've read the Tablets of Enlil 1,000 times, and the entire story of when they were back in Nibiru and coming to Earth and having to collect gold, and they were called the heroes because they had to be away from Nibiru for that long because of this cycle, because of the radiation on Earth. Their timeline, their lifelines would have been shortened. That's why they were called the heroes. So the entire basis of all these stories, you still have to know, which is that then when I can come back now and suddenly find out that the Tuatha, another name for the Tuatha De Danann, is the sons of Anu, you can suddenly go, hold on a minute, I remember that 20 years ago because the Anunnaki are called the sons of Anu. The whole story about Nibiru, of this cycle that it goes through. Well, when I then started studying about Sirius and suddenly found out that one of the names for Sirius is Wormwood, I already know one of the names for Nibiru is Wormwood. And Wormwood is also named in the Bible. So you get this automatic connection that because 20 years ago I knew Nibiru was called Wormwood, as soon as I see the word Sirius being Wormwood and Sirius being this cyclical planet that keeps coming back, that fits in with Nibiru, Planet X. There are many different names for it, of this planet that keeps coming back in this cyclical timeline. So yes, you've got to do it's better to do the entire schooling, doing the primary school, doing the secondary school, so you know all the subjects. Then when you go into the next level, you can then relate them back of automatically knowing what the pantomime story is and what the real story is. That's what I say. For me, it's just simply to say Edinburgh used to be called Jerusalem without any foundation to that particular claim of knowing why the term Jerusalem got taken away from Edinburgh, who took the term away, why was it put in the Middle East. So you've got to have the foundation to understand why the lie happened in the first place. Pagan. Again, people who are awoke will describe themselves as pagans. And this is a conception of something to do with sun worship, something to do with tree worship, some ancient knowledge, some alternative countrified religion. Well, if you take the word pagan, pagan was only actually introduced into Ireland with Christianity when Rome came back with Roman Christianity. Because what they did was start to convert all the Irish away from the British Christianity into Roman Christianity. And they then described anyone that was then practicing the whole new modern Roman Christianity, they were good. Anyone still practicing the ancient British Christianity, which is basically based around tree worship and sun worship, they were a pagan. because the word pagan simply means country folk. So the actual term pagan was an insult to anyone practicing the ancient British religion. They were just simple country folk that were just still practicing this old religion. They were modern Christians practicing Roman Christianity. So the word pagan is just an insult introduced into Ireland as an insult to anyone practicing the ancient religions. That's all. That's all the word pagan is. So anyone actually calling themselves pagan are actually insulting themselves because the word was brought in as an insult. It doesn't, the fundamentals of their belief is still the same. Yes, there's ancient sun worship, ancient tree worship, ancient this connection with nature and as above, so below. Yes, all that is a thing. But to call it the word pagan is completely the wrong word to use because that was just an insultive word to use. Pentagram. It's in a pentagram. You know what pentagram is?
Yep.
Everyone sees a pentagram and everyone gets the automatic triggered response, the 5-pointed star of the Baphomet, Satan, 666, blah, blah, blah. It's something to do with evil, some evil dude. Wrong. The pentagram actually comes from Africa. It comes from the Sira people in Africa, and it's called the Unia star. Y-O-O-N-I-R. The Unia star is the pentagram, and the pentagram of the Unia star is representation of Sirius. That's all it is. Every time you see the 5-pointed star, it's Sirius, nothing more.
Because they do the wealthy elites, whatever you want to call them, they do use that symbol a lot, though, don't they?
The pentagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe what happened with the sort of like the Siri people and the Dogons is that every few hundred years in Egypt, they used to kick out a lot of the adepts. So if Egypt ever fell, the people that had been kicked out, they carried the most ancient of knowledge. The knowledge would survive if Egypt fell. So which is why if you then go back to Egypt and look at Sopdet, Sopdet represents Sirius, and Sopdet has always got a 5-pointed star over her head. So this 5-pointed star, this Unia star, that represents Sirius. If you're in the occults, you hear them talking, I worship Satan, I worship Lucifer, I worship the Eastern Star, I worship the Morning Star. All those things are all Sirius. They worship Sirius. Sirius is their god, or this electromagnetic energy connecting the sun and Sirius.
There's nothing wrong though about Sirius, is there? I mean, it's not wrong to worship it, or would you say there is something wrong about that? No. It's neither good or bad. It's neither good or bad, is it? Because it goes in and out. Is what you're saying. It's cyclical.
No, it's a wheel on a bike.
Yeah.
It's just a cycle that just keeps going round and round, and the energy levels go up and down, up and down. That happens. What they're trying to do is hide what happens, hide that from us, because everybody can use the light, the energy, subtle energies, ethereal energies, whatever term that you understand this energy level as, the thinning of the veil, it's available to all of us. We've all got a pineal gland. It is going to be available to all of us to use, but it's not available for us to use if we don't know about it. If we don't know about it, we have no access to it. This is why they use terms like I worship Satan, Sirius. So basically, what he's saying is I worship Sirius. But because we're kept blinded to knowing the word Sirius is Satan, then all we hear from our program perspective is someone saying I worship Satan. So I think there was a couple of years ago, I saw Robert Downey Jr. receiving an award at one of these presentations, and he stood on stage, got his award, and went, I worship Satan. For the next month, all you've got is all these content producers and researchers making videos of Robert Downey Jr. worshipping Satan, and he's a Satanist, and he sold his soul to the devil, and he kills babies and drinks blood. That's the pantomime level that they're being kept at. But if you are then at the next level, and you automatically know that Satan is Sirius. So all he's actually said then is I worship Sirius. That's all he said. And what he means by I worship Sirius is I worship the light, I worship the energy. This is why they call it sun worship. because the sun is the representation of this energy that comes from Sirius through the sun down to the earth. So basically, it's just.
I get that, but there are people that are admittedly Satanists, and they do the rituals, and they refer to themselves as Satanists.
Those are the ones that I think are completely wrong. I think they have been forgotten. I think they are still within the pantomime themselves. Like I say, you can bring me anybody that says they're doing 666 or Satan or Lucifer, and I'll challenge anybody to a debate on Satan or Lucifer or Baphomet.
No, what I'm saying is that, you mentioned, was it Robert Downey Jr. saying he's like worship Satan. But there are, forget about the origins of the word, where the word comes from. There are people that believe they're they call themselves Satanists. They go to satanic rituals. They do kill babies and stuff like that. Yeah. And that does go on. I've interviewed people who are victims of it, and some people who I think have witnessed it, as well. Like, so they've been in these rituals and they've actually had to kill babies in a satanic ritual. So the word Satan, you're just writing off as like, oh no, it doesn't mean that. But to them, it means a lot. To them, they do actually think of it as the dark side.
They might think that they have sold their soul to some evil dude called Satan. They might think that if they go through a ritual and make a sacrifice, that they are releasing or getting some energy from an evil dude called Satan. I would say that they're not even aware. Yes, they are releasing or getting energy from an evil entity, but that evil entity is not called Satan. And to understand what the evil entities are, you need to go study the archons, because they are, if you go back to organized religion, when I said organized religion, the mystery schools, when the mystery schools were first created, they were the hidden knowledge. Then you have organized religion, which is the public knowledge. Now, that both of those came into the creation at the same place at the same time in Ireland. So if you were to look at the mystery schools, an easier way to understand the mystery schools in a word would be the Hermetic teachings, Hermeticism. That would be more of an understanding of what the mystery schools are. But if you want a word to understand what the organized religion is, I would use the word Gnostic. In Gnosticism, that was sort of like the initial religion. It wasn't called Gnosticism; it only became Gnostic when they went out to Egypt. But to understand what it is, Gnosticism is about the closest you can come to it. So if you understand Gnosticism, and then you'd understand about the archons and the evil spirits within Gnosticism, yes, there are evil spirits. Yes, when they are performing these rituals, they are releasing or gaining energy and interacting with these evil spirits. But they don't know that this evil spirit isn't called Satan. They believe this evil spirit is called Satan when it's not.
Oh, so that's fine. But it's what it's referring to. Yeah, just the word itself could be disputed, but they actually, they're taking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not denying. I've never denied. They do have rituals. They do interact with evil entities. Yeah, they do bad things in the name of evil entities. But personally, I think that when they say do a worship, they think that they're doing it to Satan. They're told that they're doing it to Satan. They believe they're doing it to Satan. They believe they've signed a contract with Satan. But they haven't. It's one of these. It's an evil archon.
It's an archon, is it?
Archon.
Yeah. Okay. Was that talked about in ancient Ireland? The archons.
Yeah.
Then?
They're all, in fact, if you go and study, they're all named. They've all got names, and they've all got stories behind them, and who all these archons are. Yeah, you can go and study the archons for the next 10 years.
I wonder if you mentioned about the cave paintings earlier, right? And there's like
Dantos, yeah.
I wonder if they're actually drawing the images of the transdimensional spirits and not actually the physical reptiles. They might actually be drawing.
It will be a possibility, but again, that was also the argument behind the clowns, that what they're doing is seeing these spirits beyond the veil. These spirits that, if you take a DMT trip, you can go beyond the veil and interact with these clowns. That's the basic story behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's true or not, I don't really know. I try to stick with my feet on the ground. I try not to speculate much beyond the veil because I've never had DMT, I've never had a trip or anything like that, so I have no experience of that.
Mm-hmm.
It could be true, I don't know, but I try to stick with what's on the ground. And I know if you go and study the oldest organized religion you can find, which would be Gnosticism, the evil deities within Gnosticism are the archons, and they're all named and they all have their own little stories. And some you've got good archons and bad archons, but these are the evil entities that live beyond the veil. The word "an evil red dude called Satan" is a fiction. He's just there to scare you. It's not real. 666 isn't real. Plato. If I mention the word Plato and Atlantis, you programming, the pantomime will automatically say, Plato said. If I say Atlantis, everyone will instantly go, Plato said Atlantis is beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Automatic triggered response. Well, kind of and kind of not. Plato actually said a lot of things about Atlantis. There was a meeting. It's based on a story they had a meeting with the Egyptians. The Greeks had a meeting with in Egypt. This is the one where he goes, Sauron, you Greeks are just like children, you know nothing. When they were talking about where they thought Atlantis was. And the Greeks actually used to call Ireland Ogygia, Ogygia, I think it is, Ogygia, which means land of the ancient ones. So even the Greeks used to call the Irish land of the ancient ones. But again, I'm going to come back to Plato and what he was saying about Atlantis. One of my recommendations of a video, because there's a video that actually goes into everything that Plato said about Atlantis, not just that one triggered word. You say Plato, Atlantis is beyond the Pillars of Hercules. And that's all people say, because that's the triggered response, and that's all they know. If you then open them up to everything else that Plato said about Atlantis, but I'll go back into that later. Again, if you see your favourite star or politician or anything, you see him going like that, the triggered response, the Eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye, the Eye of Horus, the sold the soul, etc., etc. The usual triggered responses. We'll just pull the rug out from under that one's feet because the Eye of Providence is serious. It's as easy as that. It's Eye of Providence, the Eye of Horus, the all-seeing eye. They're just names for serious. That's all. So nothing scary about that. Now, whether they know if they're doing that, what they're actually saying is serious, I don't think that they do. I think that they're just still. I think they are within the pantomime. They're promoting the circus, and then people are seeing them do that, and then going and making content and running around going. They've just seen Lady Gaga doing the one eye symbolism. And all the trigger responses that then brings that about. But if someone just said, I've just seen Lady Gaga saying serious, that's all it is in reality. Right, so that covers over some of the red herrings, shall we say, that are thrown out in society that bring about triggered responses where there are extra levels then to be learnt about all these triggered responses. So we go into content producers and researchers. Now, I will probably say about 5% of content producers are gatekeepers. They're doing it deliberately. They are promoting the pantomime. Everything that they talk about is within the realms of the pantomime, within the limitations of that pantomime. And they are there basically to promote this pantomime as being fact. So earlier when I talked about Graham Hancock, a deliberate gatekeeper, he's paid and promoted to make sure that you keep thinking that the Anunnaki landed in Mesopotamia out in the Middle East. That's his job. So you've got the people who do it deliberately and the people that do it accidentally. So you've got, I'd say, Stephen Greer, Graham Hancock, David Knight, the History Channel, Ancient Aliens. This one might be controversial. Robert Zephyr. I watch those channels. They all have 500,000 subscribers, 1 million views per channel. But if you actually watch their work, Robert Zephyr stays 100% within the framework of the pantomime. I've never heard him say a single word outside the paradigm of the circus. Have you heard of a channel called the Y Files? That's really
I have actually. Yeah, the goldfish. He's got a goldfish.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
that's exploded sort of in the last 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah.
So I started watching it like everybody else did, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be good." A conspiracy channel, and I probably got about half a dozen of his shows in, and then I went, "Hold on, he's not talking about anything outside of the mainstream. Anything that I've seen in the last 20, 25 years, he's never talked of anything outside of that, of the rules of the pantomime. He's never said anything. So basically all he's doing, whether he's doing it accidentally or whether he's doing it deliberately, he's being the gatekeeper, holding everybody within the boundaries of the circus. I've never heard him say a single word about Ireland or where all this stuff came from or where Christianity or any of this. I've never heard him talk outside the box, which is then why you can go to, this is why he's promoted so much. All of a sudden he comes from nowhere. What's he got? 3 million subscribers now? Somewhere around there. It's ridiculous numbers. But all he does, I've never heard him say nothing that I wasn't researching 20 years ago. Nothing. He's never come up with anything new. I can sit there being bored at everything he says because it's stuff that I learned 20 years ago and stuff that anybody could go and learn tomorrow and regurgitate and reparrot and make content about. And you'd be promoted about it because you're promoting a fiction about a fiction. That's all. Nothing outside that. Again, two more. John Levi. Huge channel promoting Tartaria. Again, I've never heard him say a single word outside the paradigm of the common known story about Tartaria. It's huge. Everybody wants to know about Tartaria, but no one ever moves it on to the next level. Everyone just says, here's a load of pictures. Here's a load of 1850s black and white pictures. And as long as I keep saying Tartaria, mud flood, Antiquitech over the top of it, we never take it any further than that. Just a quick one. Take the word Tartaria. The Tartan Aryans from Tara. The Tartanarians. And the griffin. Have you seen the griffin associated with the Tartarians? Well, the Tartanarians from Tara are the tribe of Dan. And guess what emblem, or one of the emblems, that the tribe of Dan uses? The griffin. So the Tartanarians from Tara using the black griffin come from Ireland, and they were the tribe of Dan that moved back out through Europe, and that's how they were formed.
So hang on, you're saying that the Tartarian civilization, whatever you want to call it, was actually the tribe of Dan?
Yeah, you'll find most of them are. You'll find the answers, which I think I touched on last time I talked to you, with the emblems that all these different tribes use. If you want to study history today, if you bring up all the different emblems that all the different tribes use, I mean, one of the main ones, the Lion of Judah. I mean, you've got that in the royal crest. You've got the Red Hand of Ulster. Oh, yeah, the Red Hand of Ulster.
I was just waving at Adam. That's
I was just saying it as you well like that. The Red Hand of Ulster. That's one of the emblems used by the tribes. So if you understand,
just pause for 1 sec though. Just going back to Tartarians, just in case we don't come back to that. So you're saying the Tartarians were actually the tribe of Dan, and they were proliferating the misinformation.
Yes.
Okay. Because everyone talks about Tartarian civilization being advanced and benevolent, but you're saying it wasn't.
I would have to stretch to say that any of the tribes are benevolent. I think they've all been. I think they're all at war with each other. I think they've been at war with each other for the last 3,000 or 4,000 years.
But did the Tartarians bring us advanced technology that was good for humanity?
Well, the Aryans have been bringing us good knowledge that has advanced mankind for since what 8,000 BC, for the last 8,000 years or so. But more recently, I'll keep going back to this fall of man. As Sirius moves further away, and we have the fall of man. I mean, you can first find greed and ego and narcissism starting to creep into man's nature, going back to the early Egyptians, because when they first went to Egypt, after the Storega slide smashed Ireland, the knowledge of Gnosticism and the Hermetic teachings were quite pure at that point. But the priest classes in Egypt, as you have this fall of man and the right brain and the ego and the materialism and the greed starts taking over, the priest classes in Egypt then polluted this pure knowledge as a tool to use for themselves. That's when sort of greed and manipulation very first started coming into play during the early Egyptian time period. And then it wasn't until Akhenaten came along at the end of the 18th dynasty that he recognized, apparently he read the original teachings of Thoth and the original Hermetic teachings. He realized there had been a pollution and a manipulation of this ancient knowledge. That's why he wanted to break away and almost restart the knowledge of back to this pure knowledge that had arrived from Ireland. But because it was so ingrained, he just didn't take off. And then his entire family then and the tribes then got kicked out of Ireland, and that was the biblical Exodus.
But you're saying that going back to Tartarians, you're saying there was no pure knowledge within that civilization at all then? It was all like
there was advanced knowledge, obviously. They've always kept advanced knowledge for themselves.
But for the people, I mean, for the actual empire, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I mean, the pure knowledge has always been hidden within the knowledge. It's just a case of it's got that polluted and that hidden. It's a case of now, can you actually read and understand the words that are said to you?
But is it hidden though? Because weren't they using like steeples to like like they talk about Tesla, that like the thing is like Tesla.
Yeah, the ethereal energies.
But weren't the Tartarians doing that and actually harnessing it for the good of the people? Like that's not buried information, is it? That was actually used and utilized.
Okay, I suppose that depends on did we understand what they were doing by tapping into the ethereal energies, or did we just know that they built a tower with a metal spire on the top, and did we actually know what they were doing? Again, because of Sirius moving away from us and this falling of man and the lowering of the energies, what we see now looking back, this is why they were so much more advanced 5 or 10,000, even 500 years ago. The further back we look, the more advanced that they were. But we've got to the point now where the ethereal energies, because Sirius is that far away from us, the ethereal energies have dropped that far. All we're seeing now are fossils of things that we can't even use anymore, that might have been in full working order a few hundred years ago when the ethereal energies were higher. But it's like someone suddenly turning a dimmer switch off on a light. So we're looking back at things now and saying we can speculate how they were used, but we can't actually do it ourselves. Again, same with your pineal gland, because it's so dried up and fried, and because the energies are so low, it can't be stimulated anymore by the ethereal energies. So we can only speculate of what the pineal gland used to be used for, what it was. On the flip side, where, like I say, Sirius and the Sun started going back towards each other in 2012. So from this point onwards, it's all up. So you might, like I say, you might have to go through a few cycles of lifetimes to get to that point. But from this point onwards, it's all going up. We've watched it come down. We're at the bottom, and now we're going back up again. One last researcher before I move on. This might ruffle a few feathers. Archaics. All his work is based on the Bible. All his work is based on the Roman Bible. He believes that Christianity, everything about Christianity, the Bible, comes from Rome. So again, that's within the parameters of the box. Now, when he first, going with his story, he came out of prison. He spent however long in prison, just locked up in his cell, reading book after book after book. He came up with these theories. He came out of prison, started a YouTube channel, and now he's got, is it 150,000 subscribers or something? He's taken off and he's got a massive YouTube channel now. The problem with his work is that when he was talking about being in prison and coming up with these theories when he was in prison, is knowing that the books that he read in prison were all books from within the pantomime. So important works like We Are the Scythians, he's never read. So if he starts talking about the Scythians coming from the Russian steppe, that's in the pantomime. The Scythians actually come from Scotland. So that's where the difference between the pantomime and the truth comes from. So if you spent all your time in a prison only being able to read the pantomime, great if you can come out with a theory, but then your theory is based on a fiction anyway. And just one to add to Jason's work, if anyone follows Archaics, the Phoenix is serious. I don't know if you've ever heard him say that, but it is. Quick list. Last week, someone put a comment up that I just talk away like 2 and 2 is 4, Jerusalem is Edinburgh, and I never back anything up with anybody because I've just spent that long learning it. It's like you don't feel like you've almost got to justify yourself with learning where you got that particular fact of. So it's easy to just say, right, well, that doesn't exist. So Robert the Bruce, we all know Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce in 1300 wrote something called the Declaration of Arbroath. Robert the Bruce and 20 Earls of Scotland, they wrote the Declaration of Arbroath. And basically what the Declaration of Arbroath is a big fuck off to the Pope saying, we know the tribes of Israel come from Scotland. Christianity came from Britain. We know that you're stealing it, and we know that you're plagiarizing it. And as long as there's a man alive in Scotland, we will never forget who we are. Robert the Bruce wrote that 700 years ago. So I think there's a bit of foundation to the tribes coming from Britain. Unfortunately, all these researchers have been trying for hundreds of years to put this information out. William Blake, Edward de Vere, John Dee, all these characters that you've heard about, and they spent all the time. William Blake, we will build Jerusalem in England's green and pastured lands, off the Jerusalem poem. Why would someone be talking about rebuilding Jerusalem in Britain? Because Jerusalem came from Britain. And actually, if you're also reading the song or poem Jerusalem, it says we will build Jerusalem in England's green and pastured lands. And a bit further down, he said, and the Lamb of God walked in the North's cobbled streets. So basically, he's talking about Jesus walking around the streets of Northern England. So there is information there everywhere. All you've got to do is to be able to walk out of the pantomime and actually see this stuff. I mean, everybody since year dot has all sung Jerusalem when they've been watching England rugby matches. Sing it and they're passionate about it, but they don't actually read the words and understand what the words actually mean. Well, I've got 15 of these to get through. So I'll fly through them a little bit. So there is a narrative that has been created for that everybody follows. Now, what I consistently hear is, well, I keep explaining it's a 50,000 piece jigsaw. How do you explain a 50,000 piece jigsaw? I mean, I can't do it, but I can now list off. If you want to walk out of the circus, if you've had enough of the pantomime, if you want to then start, you've been led to the water. If you want to take a drink of the water, see if it's sweet, see if you like it. This is going to be a list of researchers and videos I would highly recommend for you to start your research into this subject. So I always start with this one with everybody. Mm-hmm. Irish Wisdom Preserved in the Bible and the Pyramids by Conor McDarry. You can buy it in book form, or there's 2 or 3 audio books on YouTube which are 7 hours long. And it's called Irish Wisdom Preserved in the Bible and Pyramids by Conor McDarry. And that basically explains this, where you find Ireland in the Bible and out in Egypt. Brilliant piece of work. Highly recommend. In fact, I'd start there with everybody. Mm-hmm. The second piece of work I would highly recommend everyone to watch is a video called Atlantis Island on a channel called Keystone. Now, you know, I said earlier about Plato talking about Ireland. Basically, what he does is it's a 3.5 hour video, and he goes over all the works of Plato, everything that Plato said, how that is related to Ireland. And after him talking for 3.5 hours, you come to the conclusion that the only place on the planet that Atlantis can be is Ireland. He just goes into all the hidden knowledge and everything that nobody's heard of. I mean, Plato said that Atlantis is 6 million square cubits. Ireland is 6 million square cubits. So that little one gem, if someone said Plato and Atlantis, everyone will go, oh, it's beyond the Pillars of Hercules. You know what? Plato also said it measures 6 million square cubits. Ireland measures 6 million square cubits. So that video is called Atlantis Island, and the channel is called Keystone. It's on for about 3.5 hours. Highly recommended. Now, in the area of Scotland and Christianity and the second golden age of Britain, there's a work called Britain, The Key to World History by Commons Beaumont. And he's written a couple of these books and basically spent his entire life researching, exploring, going around Scotland, making all these connections. And he's written a couple of absolutely amazing pieces of work relating Christianity back to Britain and why everything in Britain is Christian and the Bible comes from Britain. So that's the work is called Britain, The Key to World History by Commons Beaumont. And actually, the best place to get that is a channel called Jed Skeptic, Gedskeptic, Jed Skeptic. He does a reading of all Commons Beaumont's work. So if you just, instead of buying the book, if you just want someone to do your podcast, go to the Jed Skeptic work. Sticking with that period and that area, Scotland, about 2,000 years ago, an amazing researcher called Stephen J.D. Beatty. Now, he does a lot of this.
Carly Scott, he's on Carly Scott's channel.
A couple of weeks ago. He does a lot of the others, as above, so below, a lot of the ley lines, these ancient megalithic connections. A lot of the research he does is in Scotland 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. I honestly, again, I'd put his work, a lot of his work, on a par with Michael Tsarian. We mentioned before that Troy is Cambridge. So now we're coming down a little bit. So Troy was Cambridge, again, 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. The channel that I'd recommend if you're interested in that particular rabbit hole is a channel called Enlightened Turtle, like called Kev, a Scouser. A Scouser called Enlightened Turtle. I'd highly recommend you having an interview with him if you want to talk about this Troy and Cambridge thing, because the work he's putting out at the moment is absolutely amazing. And also on that same topic, in the same period of Troy and Cambridge, if you like Kev's work at Enlightened Turtle, then you will move on to the next level, which is a couple of researchers called Wilson and Blackett. They've done a lot of work, especially around that period, but theirs is a lot of into Wales. So if you want to learn about the ancient Egyptian mystery schools and the initial mystery schools when they were in Ireland, and then they went over to Egypt, the mystery schools of what the teachings are, and an explanation of a lot of what you see in Egypt, the channel is called the Flower of Light Mystery School. Again, what a channel, because all her work is it's done like an audio book, and she's Irish, so she's got a great accent, and just someone, if you just want to drive along listening to what she says, she'll open your eyes at a lot of what the mysteries are about Egypt, and in the mystery schools, and explaining what they are. Done. Ancient Ireland, the mystery schools, the hidden cults, the history of hidden cults, the psychological effects of man today of all the ancient hidden cults. Michael Tsarian. Just michaeltsarian.com.
Yeah.
If you go to his page, you'll be there for the next 10 years. You never need to come out. He was born in Ireland. From a kid, he grew up looking at all the carvings, the iconography, the flags, and all. And he's been doing it since he was a kid, and like he's our age now. So he's just got a lifetime of knowledge. I can't recommend Michael's work highly enough. But again, the whole thing is that vast. You might want to pick one area that interests you. To specifically look at, which is why I'm trying to cover all these in different areas. Pre-dynastic Egypt. You know, when you're talking about the Cebu disc and all these things, all these pots and things that are 15,000 years old that we just simply cannot explain.
Yeah.
There's a brilliant channel called Uncharted X. He did do a lot of work about like core drills, the ancient pre-dynastic tech that we can't explain today. He's just started doing a series. He's found someone to do. They found a lot, 40,000 vases and plates that are at least 15,000 years old, and he's just got someone to start doing CAD on these plates and vases and putting them onto the computer so they can measure how precise they are. If you're measuring a vase that's 15,000 years old and you've got something to the accuracy of 0.003 of an inch, 3,000ths of an inch perfect, off a solid granite vase that's 15,000 years, take your history book, throw it away. You've just destroyed history with one vase. So that's the work he's doing he's going into at the moment, is doing these CADs of all these ancient pottery that they found to show how perfect they are. He came up with a statement. He said the only choice they have is perfect. If they're making a vase that for flowers that's within 3,000th of an inch of perfect, then the only option they had was perfect. Because you don't make a flower vase that perfect to the same level as you'd make a Formula One engine. So his channel is called Uncharted X. Again, sticking with pre-dynastic, but pre-dynastic global megaliths, the New Earth channel with the New Earth lady. Again, if you want things that you can never explain, things that you've never seen before, that are well and truly hidden, which every single one of them, which will just destroy anything that you thought that you knew about history, the New Earth channel. And on that New Earth channel, she also did a series of 4 videos by someone called, get this one right, Gary Schunung. And that's SCHOENUNG. He did 4 one-hour videos looking at anomalies on Google Earth, which might sound strange initially. Start watching his videos and your jaw will just hit the floor, because any idea that you had of this linear timeline of what you've been fed, to look back at what the scarring is left that we can't see normally, just go and watch his Gary Schunung, and you'll find his work on the New Earth channel. Again, if you want to understand the Hermetic teachings, Joe from Library of the Untold, basically what he does, he breaks down the Hermetic teachings and what they're all about. Hopefully I'm going to have a chat to him, because at the moment he's unaware that the Hermetic teachings come from Ireland, that's where they were initially created. He's got a brilliant channel. He's got over 100,000 subscribers. Every video he puts, you come off it and your head will be spinning with new ideas, except the fact that he doesn't know it all comes from Ireland.
What's his name? Joe what? Joe
Phipps.
Okay, yeah, I think
Phipps.
Yeah.
His channel is called Library of the Untold.
Yeah.
And he'll leave your head spinning every video he puts out. But the way he puts it across, he's a tradesman, he's a glazier. He works on building sites.
How many more of these we got? Because I think it might be, for the interest of the viewers, it might be if you can send me the list and I'll just put it up in the description.
All right, I'll just fly through these last ones, because there's only 4 more to do.
All right.
Joe, obviously, Carly's going to act like acting like a hub, bringing all these researchers together.
Carly Spell
at Dark Matters.
Yeah.
Now I have to spell this because I can't say it. The tribes of Israel, as they moved out from Britain and they moved out around the world and took this advanced knowledge, where they went, who they are, how they changed their names. The channel is called Kurimeo Ahu, and you spell that Kurimeo Ahau. Kurimeo Ahu.
Wow.
Brilliant. Again, every time you come off that, you'll come off with a whole mountain of cherries. Ancient Ireland and Brecon Law. Understanding that, because Brecon Law is the oldest legal system on the planet, and every legal system has been created from Brecon Law. The channel is called Brecon Academy, and that's BREHON, Brehon Academy. All the stories from ancient Ireland. This is brilliant to go to sleep to. All the ancient stories that was told: the first Battle of Moytura, the second Battle of Moytura, Tierney No, King Manannán, the Tuatha De Danann. The channel is called Candlelit Tales. And basically they just go through all these ancient Irish stories, introduce you to all the characters and who they are. And the last piece that I'll talk about is a quick one on Sirius, because again, this is the comedy, the pantomime, and the reality. I've been spending years working on Sirius, and just before I did a 4-hour video on Sirius, I came across Stephen Greer, the NASA NASA bloke.
Yeah.
He did a 4-hour video on Sirius, and Stephen Greer now owes me 4 hours of my life back, please.
You said that before.
Again, before I did the video, I thought I better go and watch this just in case I've missed something. And basically, it's just 4 hours. It was just 4 hours of the pantomime that you can find in 5 minutes off Google, and he turned it into a 4-hour video, and that has had 5 million views. Well done, Stephen. Then I did my 4-hour video on Sirius. Not a single word that Stephen used in his video or single claim has been repeated in mine. Mine was a 4-hour video, and mine's got 300 views.
Yeah, that's your channel's not big enough, though. That's not like,
No, I would say this has to be built. That there is an interest of up to 5 million people who will watch a video on Sirius.
Yeah.
But everything that they've watched so far about Sirius has been the pantomime.
But just briefly, what is the difference in what he's saying, what you're saying?
Oh.
Don't go in. You don't have to go into too long, but just
no. Try and keep it simple. Everything that Stephen said in his Sirius video, I could find in 5 minutes. With a quick Google search, you'll find out that Sirius is the dog star. It brings about the dog days. It's in Canis Major. It's the closest star to us. It's 8 light years away, 27. All the stereotypical cliche work that anyone could find out about Sirius is in this video that he put together. There's never once does he say another name for Sirius is the Eye of Providence. It's called Satan. It's called Lucifer. The Statue of Liberty, the All-Seeing Eye are all based around Sirius. Everything that I put in my video explaining what Sirius is in reality, you won't find a word of that in his video. So that's basically it. I won't suggest going and throwing 8 hours of your life away and comparing the two, but you would find it fascinating comparing the two, even if you just flipped at little bits of it.
Yeah.
But I haven't got the backing of the Vatican and 1 million subscribers on my channel. So that brings to the end of what the pantomime is, what the circus is, who created it, when they created it, why they created it, examples of what you believe to be real, which aren't, things that you see that you will brush under the table as an anomaly that don't fit into your understanding of the timeline. So basically, you just I'll research that another time, but you never actually go back to it. And then, if you want to taste the water and you want to go and have a dive in and go and have a swim around, that is a list of all the content producers in the videos I would recommend as introductions to this complete theory, because the theory is too big to explain in itself. Now I can get a drink.
I think we should wrap it up on 2 hours this time, because we did 3 last time. If you're happy doing that.
Absolutely. Make a video comparing the two.
Yeah.
When I said at the start, this whole thing is like a 50,000 piece jigsaw. Now, Carly dragged me off my building site 6 months ago to get me to start talking about this. As I keep saying, content producing, interviewing people. This is your bag. This is what you've been doing for years. I'm just making it up as I go along. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. But at the moment, in my mind, I've got enough research to do at least 2 books, at least. I could make an hour video for each one of these 50,000 pieces of jigsaws. I could bring hundreds. I could do a video a day explaining, like I did with the Satan, like I did with the clowns. I could turn out hundreds of those videos. But this is where we get to the problem of I'm a kitchen fitter and I'm working on building sites. So I'm a tradesman. I've got a good job. It's reasonably well paid. If I could turn my channel into something similar to Joe's, where he could now, he's a tradesman, he works on building sites. He's at a point now where he can step away from the building sites. He has enough of an income on his channel just from subscribers and the advertising that he can now do it full time. So this is where he's up to. So over the next few years or whatever, however long it takes, what I'm hoping to do is going along with Carly and either building a hub of all these different researchers and videos of someone, oh, like that, but I only need to go to Carly's channel and then come out from there. And also building my own channel, because if I could do this full time, I could do a video a day full time. But then some of them will be massive, like the Anunnaki video will be huge. I thought I was just going to do a simple one on Satan and 666, and that took an hour and a half. So
thorough. Yeah.
There's that much of a wealth of knowledge that people don't know about outside the pantomime. They'd be there for the rest. They'd be outside of the pantomime for the rest of their life. They'd never want to go back in. This is what people like us are trying to introduce people to.
There's some comments here, by the way.
I'm just starting to read the comments now. I'm going to spend 45 hours. Again, the last talk I did to you, I think I did that completely the wrong way around, because I would have rather have done it this way of the explanation. And then once people have got a basic understanding of what the theory is, it was brought about by Rome. They brought out this false timeline, and then you can start firing in hundreds and hundreds of examples of they changed this, they changed that, they changed this, they changed that. Yeah, the tip of the iceberg. For years, I've actually imagined it as that I'm stood on the top of a mountain with a snowball, and it's welded into places, this snowball. But I know if the snowball started to go, because the one word I hear regularly is resonates. Every time I start talking to someone, I mean, I've made hundreds and hundreds of these wild claims. Jerusalem was Edinburgh. And no one has ever come back and given me any kickback on any of those things, calling you're mad, you're stupid, you're lunatic, Tinat conspiracy, whatever. All these things seem to resonate at quite a deep level, which is why everyone finds it so interesting and so easy then to start going down those roads. But the problem is, like most knowledge, the further you go down those roads, the further away from the circus that you'll be. So the more times that you see 666 and Satan, it'll be like, it's now becoming sort of like, like when you're scratching a blackboard, seeing the word Satan and 666 and everyone running around going, Satanism, it's Luciferianism. It's like you just want to get hold of everyone and just give them a good shake and go, it doesn't exist. Come with me, come out. The water's warm. Yeah, 45 hours. Probably won't even need that.
Yeah. But no, it's good stuff, Neil. I don't know if there's anything you want to finally wrap up with, but
again, I'm not criticizing anybody that is currently researching or staying within the parameters of the circus tent, staying with the parameters of the pantomime, because they don't know any difference. But if you're going to call yourself a researcher, if you then want to know where the next level is, because I mean, I actually, you've heard me talking for long enough now. I think it was about 12 months ago, I heard someone say they were bored with researching. There was nothing new coming along. It was stale. Everyone was just going round and round the same rabbit holes with no out. And so I said, well, what's your favorite subject of researching? And they went, Tartaria is my favorite subject. So I went, the Tartanarians from Tara. Like, what? So in one statement, all of a sudden they've got an out to that rabbit hole of then going somewhere else to research. Part of being kept in the circus tent, being kept in the pantomime, is not being able to get out of it. And this is where a lot of people get almost confused and a bit frustrated that there is no out. There's no door there. Where do I start searching? Which researchers do I start looking at? So that's why I then went into the list of this is where I'd start. And I say to everybody, ancient wisdom preserved in the Bible and pyramids and Atlantis Island. If you don't do anything else, but just do those two videos, I can guarantee the hook will well and truly be sunk. And you'll never want to go back to the circus tent ever again. You can see it. Once you're out of it, you can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
But most people are just That
Yeah,
blinker.
they're stuck in it. Yeah, it's like sort of turning the light off, and it's like you still know where all the furniture. You know, once you've turned the light off, you still haven't known where all the furniture.
You
is.
know where everything is. You know where
It's a little
everything
bit
is.
like that. Yeah, but
It's automatic triggered responses, which is why I started last week at the cornerstone, the absolute cornerstone, the bedrock of their beliefs, Satan and 666. Let's take a jackhammer to that one thing that every time, if you watch that video and then come back, every time you see that, you will know that that's a mistranslation. That's not 666. There is no 666. It should have been 616, and the number 616 is the number of man, not the beast. There is no beast. You will automatically know that. So I say it's just, I hate to use the term waking up, taking the blinkers off. It's just walking out to the circus and seeing what the reality is and seeing the circus for what it is, seeing the stories and why everyone is being held at that point, and they can't go beyond that.
Well, although you do get clowns in circus though, so
absolutely. In fact, there's probably a huge video just to be made on circuses. In fact, there's a huge video to be made on golf, because the links between, I play a lot of golf and I just keep seeing these words, two ball, things like that are used in golf that appear in the occult.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
There's loads and loads of words. I keep seeing these words in relating to golf and the occult. Right. And then have you heard of Michelle Gibson?
No.
American researcher. She's done some nice work. She actually did golf courses, and it seems that every time you get these important areas around the world, they keep putting a golf course on top of it.
Oh, right.
She's done a couple of videos of these of going to these important places and then finding a golf course slapped on top of these
to cover it up, just to prevent it from being excavated.
Also, I've not, again, this is one of these rabbit holes that I need to pull the string, but I know there's a lot of connections between golf and the occult.
Oh, right.
Because I play a lot of golf and I keep seeing these words all the time. One of the competitions is called two ball. Well, one of the main characters in masonry is two ball cane, and that's where you get the Facebook logo thing from.
Actually, Laughing Cedar just said that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and also this is quite an interesting. I don't know if you've ever done it. Take the word golf and flip it.
Flog, yeah.
That's how it feels when you're walking around the golf course.
When you're having a bad round.
Yeah, you're just flogging it.
You got me thinking about golf terms now.
There's loads, and then say that why are there 18 holes? There's, again, I'd have to actually do a whole video, because there's that many things that you could study and go into and make videos. That's what I keep saying. I could do 50,000 videos and just simply do one a day. When you're seeing these connections, again, did I tell you the story about the Voynich manuscript? Can't remember.
We were going to wrap up 2 minutes ago, so maybe we should leave that for that. No, yeah, because I can imagine you're just about to go down a huge rabbit hole over that. I was basically just asking you to wrap up like 7 minminutes ago.
No problem.
Yeah.
I said, John, this is your channel. These are your videos.
I love it. It's just I want to kind of keep it into a show, and like any big stuff, big rabbit holes, we'll segment that for another show, and then we've got something to work with. Do you know what I mean? Rather than finishing.
It only actually struck me the other day that if you do it, let's say you do a 3-hour video, you put that out in 2 halves. If each half then gets 1,000 watches, 1,000 views, that gives you 2,000 views. If you just put 1 3-hour video out,
less likely to get the same amount.
You start chopping it into
exactly. Better to do it that way,
or treble the number of views that you actually get. That struck me the other night. It's like, because someone was talking about Carly, and you get us talking, especially me or Steve Beatty, and we'll still be here in 6 hours' time.
I know. I worked that out last time. I have to kind of keep you on a rein a little bit, because you'll just
stop me. You stop me from talking.
You took about 5 minutes to say goodbye last time, but that's fine, because you're a wealth of knowledge, and you always want to give loads of stuff, and there's so much to talk about.
Carly actually suggested me and Steve Beatty doing something like an 8-hour live show of just talking for about 8 hours, and everyone firing questions in like this, and then we could then go and answer the questions that people didn't understand, that we could then give a proper explanation from. But
8 hours. That's a bit much.
Well, to do something like that, you'd have to do 6 or 8 hours. It'd have to be absolutely huge. But if Carly was going to do that, I'd probably wanted to monetize a channel before she did that. There's no point in us doing that if she's not going to make anything out of it.
Yeah, it's a big investment.
I don't mind. I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it, to be honest.
Right, Neil, I've got to keep you on a leash. Your YouTube is at the Skippy7.
My YouTube channel is, well, it's just called Neil Bentley. If you just typed in Neil Bentley.
Yeah, you can also find it. That's your actual URL. That's the URL though. So if you if you copy and paste that takes you to Neil's channel.
All right.
Neil's an absolute fountain of knowledge here. Ruffles some feathers in a good way. And always a pleasure to have you on, mate. You've got so much to give. I love it, and it's hard to stop when we get going.
Well, again, that's it. You stop me. You just right. Stop.
Okay, there we go. All right. Well, I'll do that now. So thank you everyone for watching. Here's the one last thing. Channels will release the show shorts between the ships keep will gain interest. Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Neil for his time and effort and research and everything else. Absolute ledge. And we'll see you maybe on a part 3 sometime. So thanks everyone for watching.
Cheers, John.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks for that.
All right, there we go.